From the beginning of high school, I've loved physics. It was the final reality check that I really needed to spark my passion for learning. So when the Genius Project was introduced to me, I knew exactly what I wanted to pitch. I called it BLIP, and it stood for Basic Learning for Young Physicists. It was an after-school program where I could teach physics to lower-classmen without all the chaos of homework, formulas, and notes. It was the best idea that I had for sparking passion in others, as well as strengthening my own. But I didn't really know where to start with this project, so I pretty much just threw it to the bottom of my barrel, and I lived my life like any other teenager would, doing nothing. Now, senior year rolled around, and BLIP was nothing but a crippled mess. It seemed pointless to try to revive an already dead idea, so I started scraping around for a new one. My fourth year was also the introduction to the engineering department's program. We were randomly placed into groups of 4, and we had to try to figure out a problem in American life. After finding that problem, we were given 32 weeks to design, prototype, and test a solution to that problem with nothing more than a crisp $50 bill. Through my passion of engineering, this was going to be my new genius project. Over 10,000 people are killed every year due to drinking and driving, and more than 1.1 million arrests were made in 2015 alone that were related to DUIs. And according to the CDC, a designated driver takes on the responsibility of taking home an average of 3 people on any given night. But here's where my team found the danger. In a study done by Loyola and Boston University, over 17,000 students were polled across 140 American campuses, and they were all asked about designated driving in their life. Of those 17,000 students, 40% had polled to being a designated driver at least once in their life. And of that 40%, 23% had polled to having a drink while being a designated driver only once. But it gets worse than that. 37% had polled to having a drink while being a designated driver on 2 or more separate occasions. 12% had polled to binge drinking while being a designated driver once, and 5% had polled to binge drinking while being a designated driver on 2 or more separate occasions. For those who don't know, binge drinking for an adult male is 5 drinks in an hour, and for an adult female, it's 3 drinks in an hour. I want you to look at these statistics and notice that there's still a pattern of mixing drinking and driving. And this pretty much defeats the purpose of what it is to be a designated driver, to get people home safely without being under the influence of alcohol. This was our problem, and our goal was to lower these statistics by actually prohibiting fraternity drinkers from even turning the key. Now, there are many ways to find the blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, of an individual. Our team tried oximeters, blood tests, breathalyzer units. And before our idea could go public, we had to follow some very careful criteria. The product needed to be accurate, sanitary, and actually keep people safe from drinking and driving, just to name a few. But the most important specification we had to follow was sanitation. We didn't want something that everyone would be sharing bodily fluids through, and that's what we had to follow very carefully. Our team decided to use a breathalyzer unit, but we still had that problem of people placing their mouths and sharing germs through a shared bit. So in order to tackle that issue, we ended up creating our own passive breathalyzer unit. And this allowed for no contact between the user and the interface, and this kept them safe from germs. After many solutions and careful consideration later, our team came up with what we call a modular breathalyzer lockbox. The modular section allows for an owner of a fraternity house to only have to purchase one breathalyzer interface, as seen on the left. That breathalyzer interface can be connected to as many boxes, or locking bays as we call them, as needed for the specifications of the fraternity house. A smaller fraternity house only needs that one breathalyzer unit and has only a minimum of 9 bays. A larger fraternity house, once again, has to only need that one breathalyzer unit, but can connect on as many bays as they need in units of 9 for their specific needs. Now, the designing was my portion of the project, and I needed to make sure everything fit together just right. I used a program called AutoCAD, and this really helped me when it came to actually putting the design on paper, or in this case, on a computer. Over the summer, the engineering department had purchased a laser cutter, and this greatly accelerated the prototyping process of our entire project. But before we could play with those awesome lasers, we first needed a design. What you see behind me is the final production that I came up with myself. It's 76 specifically cut pieces with over 500 of those cut movements. I wanted everything to fit together almost like Lincoln logs, woven at the corners for easy construction. This woven technology also greatly increased the structural integrity of the unit and thus protect the computer that was housed inside. After assembly and hardware installation, the final product you see behind me is what we had. The way how it works is a designated driver will come up to the unit and select a bay. Then they will scan their thumb and place the keys inside. The bay will lock, and the designated driver will go on for their night of partying. After coming back, they will scan their thumb again before blowing into the breathalyzer unit. If they have alcohol on their breath, the bay will lock for an additional 2 hours or until they are sober. If the initial blow means that they are sober, the bay will unlock and the designated driver can get their keys and drive home safely. In the near future, our team wants to kickstart the idea, get some funding for it, and actually put this idea on the market to start saving lives with the solution that we have come up with. To take away, the engineering department allowed me to pursue and develop a passion with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But I didn't cruise through this either. I learned a lot of valuable skills that would greatly set me above anyone else in an engineering interview. I learned how to AutoCAD, which is a really big requirement for any engineering profession, and I taught myself through my failures and along each step of the way. But the one thing I will never forget from day one is learning from where I'm stuck. Many students in the Genius Project found themselves between a rock and a hard place. Most of those students just gave up, turned around, never looked back. Other students found where they were stuck and pushed through their problem with their passion and got to their goal of success. There are people in this world that have one passion, and that's all right. It's like a screwdriver or a pair of scissors or even just a can opener. Each tool has one specific job, and it does that job very well. But when given a task outside what it can do, it gives up, turns around, gives that job to someone else who is more capable. Me, I see myself with multiple passions, finding where I'm stuck and moving through my success, not through the problem, but around it through a separate passion. I feel like we're all on that path of passion. Since before we can remember, we've always been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that question has continued through our lives, pressuring us to find one passion and to stick to it, basically limiting us to only one tool for success. Now, I can't speak for all of you, but I can for myself when I say that I'd rather have a Swiss Army knife in my pocket rather than just a screwdriver, a pair of scissors, or a can opener. Keep your mind open, let your passions build, and may your toolbox be plentiful. Thank you.